Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations, where we bring women voices and stories to the mic and where we are everything heard, helping to elevate and redefine sister friends and our sister friend tribe. I am your girl, Tamekia. Be sure to stay connected with me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia. And before we get started with the show, let me give you today's affirmation. Now, today's affirmation is interactive. So when I say your name, you say your name, and Melissa, you as well. Okay. Today's affirmation. My name is Tamekia.
My name is Melissa.
My name is Tamekia. And say it again, Melissa.
My name is Melissa.
And my name will be positively spoken in rooms that will lead to connections so I can serve my community, lead in my purpose, and be a servant unto God's people. So that is today's affirmation, okay? Today's affirmation is interactive. So I'm going to say it again. And when I say name, you insert your name. My name is Tamekia, and my name will be positively spoken in rooms that will lead to connections so I can serve my community, lead in purpose, and be a servant unto God's people. So today we have Melissa Course with us. Hello, Melissa.
Hi Tamekia, and hi everybody.
Thank you for saying yes to Happy Hour Conversations. I'm going to do a really quick bio, really quick. Melissa Courts is a proud mom of 6, a proud GG of 2 beautiful young grandchildren. Melissa graduated from Wright State University and earned a degree in biological science. And soon after, she found her passion in the lactation field, working for Dayton Public Health, the WIC program, for 18 years. Melissa is not only a lactation consultant, but she is also a doula. Again, welcome. And thank you for
Thank
saying
you.
yes. So here's a fun fact about Melissa and I. We are 1997 Meadowdale graduates, black and gold.
Good deal.
So, Melissa, I did a quick bio, just, of capturing a snapshot of you, but I want you to share with me and share with our audience to the core, who is Melissa?
So to the core, the first thing I think about is being a child of God, um, being, loving Jesus. That's why I'm to the core, and then everything kind of spreads after that, or spreads from that. I'm a mother, and I enjoy being a mother of 6 kids, as Tamekia was saying. Um, and I just love everything about being a mom and just loving people, loving on people. I love my community. I love to serve others. Um, I love to leave a lasting impression on people, no matter who I come in contact with. And the subject we're going to be talking about today, I talking about that, and I love supporting the cause.
Awesome. Well, thank you for telling us who you are. So, the lactation consultant. Tell us how you got into the field of being a lactation consultant. In fact, can you just tell us what a lactation consultant is and what an individual does?
Yes. So, a lactation consultant is a professional that is international board certified, and what we do is we help mothers and babies with breastfeeding. Not only that, we educate about breastfeeding, we promote it, we encourage it in the community. We are there by the mother and baby side throughout their journey to ensure that they are successful with breastfeeding. And it's about meeting the mother where she's at, and it's about her goals and helping her to reach her breastfeeding goals. Um,
How, how
Breastfeeding
did
is
you
not.
get into the field?
How did I get into the field? I'm sorry. What I was going to say. Before I say that, is that breastfeeding is not always natural. Some people think, oh, I don't need help with breastfeeding, but there's things that come up where you might need help. And so we're there to assist in whatever way possible. Now, how I got into this field, it was like by I mean, I just fell right into it by accident. Let's say that, I didn't know what breastfeeding meant when I had my oldest daughter. I didn't know that we were able to breastfeed, that our breast produced milk or anything like that. So I would have never thought that I'd be here. And when I heard about breastfeeding, I just thought, I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, then I'll do formula, because that's all I knew and that's all I saw. And so, as far as getting into the field, it was because I needed help with breastfeeding my first two kids. Both times I went to WIC and I got a lot of help there. And I work with lactation consultants and breastfeeding peer helpers. And just, eventually I ended up working in WIC myself as a breastfeeding peer helper. And basically they support the mothers, they're peer supporters, they've all breastfed, they're experienced with breastfeeding, they at least successfully breastfed for 6 months. And just being a breastfeeding peer helper and really wanting to expand my horizons and be able to help mothers um, on a deeper level, besides just offering support and education and encouragement, but also being able to help them with the breastfeeding issues. And that's something more of what lactation consultants do. And so that's how I eventually started my journey and finally made it to that particular role.
Okay, so when you say you, so basically it found you.
Yes.
Being a lactation consultant, it basically found you because you were getting help to help breastfeed your children.
Yes. Yes. And I don't know what made me even get help. I didn't think that I would work that hard at it, but I think for me, when I think back with my oldest, especially, when I was breastfeeding her and I just started seeing her fill out over the days, like, oh my gosh, like you're actually still here. It's like you wouldn't be here if you were not eating, and it's like you're drinking my milk, so you're actually existing. And I see you gaining weight, and and it's like, just that was so empowering to me. And so when I started having some trouble, I made sure to get help, because I just felt so empowered by the ability to be able to be her sole provider.
Okay, so but tell me this. Okay, you were young when you had your first child, right? And you
Yes.
were passionate about breastfeeding your first child. But I'm interested to know what made you want to breastfeed, because I'm not sure about you when you grew up, but I know for sure when I grew up, my family, there wasn't too many women in my family that breastfed.
Yeah.
So was it different for you?
No, actually, I had the same experience. No one had breastfed. I gave my, the cousins under me. I only had cousins under me bottles. I mean, I had never seen it, and as I mentioned, I didn't know our breast made milk. And for me, it was getting educated about it. Hearing about that your body, is can make something for your baby that nothing else can. That your milk is superior, to any other milk. And also, for me, it was like, gosh, like I was kind of curious as to why no one else did it. So it sparked my curiosity. And then for me, also, I wanted my baby to have the best of everything. I wanted her, and it was like, and I felt like breastfeeding was included in that. And I didn't really think that I'd be successful with it. I just thought, okay, at least I can say that I tried it. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
not gonna work out, but at least I can say I tried. At least I can say I at least, like tried it and it didn't work. And and I tried the best thing that I could for her, but it didn't work. That was my thought about it. So I at least wanted to try it. Also, I will say this: just having friends and peers around you that have breastfed. I had one friend that had breastfed. I'd never seen her breastfeed, but I admired her as a young mother. I looked up to her. She was a little bit older than me, maybe a year or two, but I admired her, and I admired, just the bond that she had with her baby, and just the things that she did with her baby that I didn't see many other people do in our, just in culturally, with when it came to our community. And so the fact that she said she had tried it, that also kind of encouraged me as well.
So you were successful in breastfeeding your first child. Did you breastfeed all of your children?
I breastfed all six of them. Yes.
Did you? How long
Hmm.
did you breastfeed for?
Y'all really want to know? um,
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say something really quick before I mention how it was. In our community, you will hear once they start drinking from cups, once they start talking and going to school, when they can ask for it, it's time to stop. And I didn't listen to any of those things, So I really, I mean, as a lactation consultant, really encourage mothers not to be, not to allow that to affect or influence how long they decide to breastfeed. So all of my kids, they breastfed, man, I mean, in way into toddlerhood. As a matter of fact, my sixth kid is still breastfeeding, and he is 4, and he is still breastfeeding. Um, the AAP recommends that we breastfeed 2 years and beyond. And as long as you breastfeed, your baby will benefit from breastfeeding.
Let's talk about that. Let's break that down. Because you said once they start drinking out of cups, that most people will say
Mm-hmm.
stop breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
But you said it's 2 years and beyond.
2 years and
What
beyond.
are what are the break that down to me and break it down to the audience? Like, what does that really mean, and what does it mean for the child,
Okay.
and
Well,
why?
one of the major things is the antibodies in the breast milk. So as they get older, your baby is breastfeeding just in general. Your body always knows what's going on as far as like germs and different illnesses and things that have going on. There is a transfer of information through the saliva back through our nipple when we're breastfeeding, and our bodies are always helping to fight things off. But the biggest thing is that as your child gets older and they're still breastfeeding, your breast milk actually increases in antibodies. So when they're infants, they're with mom. They're not on the floor. They're not touching a whole bunch of things, and so there's not as many antibodies. There's plenty, but not as many. But then as they
Mm-hmm.
get older and they're toddlers and they're playing outside and they're getting into things, they're putting things in their mouth. Your breast actually makes more antibodies than they do when they were younger. So the antibodies increase. And so with that being said, with your child being older, picking up colds and even different things from daycare. It helps to protect them just however long. Even with me, nursing an older child and having COVID, I was able to give my baby COVID antibodies. My body made antibodies to COVID, and I was able to give that to my baby that was nursing, when he was older. And even now, like my son is fighting something. I don't know exactly what he has, but my breast milk is when his throat is sore, he has congestion. Breast milk actually goes in there. It kills the germ that's causing the sore throat. It helps to clear out the mucus because it's a living antibody. It's like it's something that's a living and it attacks things right away. And so a child that didn't have a mother that's breastfeeding, like if I wasn't breastfeeding him, he wouldn't have the extra help to fight off whatever he has going on.
So, do you feel like your children were less sick to compared to other children? And I don't know if your children were in daycare, but let's even compare them to being in daycare. Do you feel like your children were less sick?
I feel like at least 4 of them, I mean, they just hardly ever were sick. Then there was a couple of them that were, but the things that I still liked about it, because when it comes to that thing, I mean, that's what research shows that babies are less likely to get sick and less likely to pick up germs, and or if they pick up germs, but they're less likely, to have illnesses and things like that. But nothing is 100% proof. There's always like that, that source of error, in the research. And
Mm-hmm.
so I will say that a couple of my most kids are less likely to get sick. But I did have a couple of kids that were sicker than I expected for them to be. But I was still reassured that me breastfeeding them was helping them to get better. Especially when I think about my oldest daughter that's 25. And back then, they actually made cough syrup and cold syrups for babies that when they were little. And now they don't do that anymore. I want to say it's like 4 years old or older before they, before you can even find something on the shelf for your child, maybe older than that. But with me breastfeeding, they're getting mommy's natural medicine. Not to mention the fact, say for instance, if they fell outside and they got hurt, your breast milk actually helps to, if you actually put your breast milk on a wound like a scrape outside, it would go in and kill and start to kill the germs inside there and start to heal the baby's knee or the child's knee. So again, that goes back to the 2 years and beyond. That just the constant benefits that they get with the breastfeeding.
Okay. So you kind of went into my next question. The next question, it was, what are the benefits of breastfeeding for both the mother and the child? So you explained the antibodies. Is there any other benefits?
Yes, there are. Yes, and something I want to mention is even just in general, our milk is species specific. So each animal, each mammal that makes their milk, they make it specific for their babies. So our milk, it is made, where it has a lot of antibodies. It helps to boost their brain development. Um, Also, just decreasing the risk of things that you see like that plagues our community, like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, um, obesity. Things that we see that's in our, that's specific to our community more so than the other races. The breast milk helps to decrease the risk of that as well. SIDS, that's another big one. Infant mortality is a big thing, especially in Ohio. African American babies have the highest rates of infant mortality. Breastfeeding decreases the risk of infant mortality because there's so many things inside of it that our babies need. And when they don't get it, they don't get those things they really need that's inside of it. And also, there's more interaction between mother and baby. They don't sleep as long. Um, and so they're less likely to die from SIDS.
Okay.
Another and so that goes back to again to species specific. And for instance, like dolphins and whales, actually they breastfeed, but their milk is actually made where um, when they release it in the water to their babies, it withstands the pressure of the water. It stays in a form like almost like a thick globule, like a thick glob like form where the babies can suck it in. But just imagine, I mean, we couldn't get their babies our breast milk, and our babies could never suck down a big globule of milk.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think it's really cool how our bodies know how to make it species specific for what our babies need, and so when they don't get it, they're missing out on something. Formula is cow's milk, and it's a different milk. And I don't want to go too much into it, but some cases babies, of course, have to have it. But I always encourage mothers, if you can breastfeed, definitely try breastfeeding your baby.
I
Try
was
really
just
hard
going.
at it.
I was just going to ask about the moms that may have trouble with their children latching on.
Hmm.
What are some recommendations, especially if they want to breastfeed, but they feel like it's really challenging for their child to latch on? What are
Hmm.
some recommendations, and or what are some issues that could be going on for the child not to latch on?
Well, my first recommendation would be to talk to a professional because there could be so many different reasons why the baby's not latching on, and we don't want mothers to go too long without help and trying to troubleshoot and get so exhausted and frustrated with breastfeeding that they just kind of like shy away from it or decide they don't want to do it. And so it's really important to speak with someone to help you figure out why babies not latching. But I will say this: most babies, when they can't latch for some reason, they it's not that they don't want to, because you hear a lot of moms say he just wouldn't do it, and he wouldn't latch to me. And usually that's not the case. Usually it's a reason why they can't do it. And so the lactation consultant, um, or even the breastfeeding peer helpers at WIC, they would want to help you um, figure out, like, I mean, by asking questions. We ask a series of
Mm-hmm.
questions to try to help you get to the source of why, and then we give you recommendations based on that. Their lactation consultants are there again. Well, I don't know if they have them at WIC anymore in Montgomery County, but at the hospital they're available. There's La Leche League, where we have La Leche League leaders that help with breastfeeding. But at the hospital where they're delivered, they definitely want to look into that, and then that way we can help you figure out a plan to, just some recommendations to help baby get latched on. But I will say this: most times they don't latch on, um, and the number one cause is the mother might be too full and gorged. The breast get really full with milk after about day 3 or so, and sometimes they just have a hard time latching onto the breast because of that. Just because it's so full, they can't get a nice deep latch. That's a big one. Even sometimes how mothers, what happens during a birth can affect how the baby latches on. Sometimes babies are, they experience some kind of trauma. Sometimes we have some babies, as I mentioned to you before, that may need to be adjusted by the chiropractor. So and that's something that a mother wouldn't know unless she spoke to a professional. Um, Another big one is if the baby had bottles of pacifiers while trying to learn to breastfeed, and that's a big one that we see where mothers, they want to start introducing the bottles of pacifiers, whether it's like they want to sleep more at night, or they want dad or grandma or someone to help, or they just get exhausted from breastfeeding. And if you introduce those bottles and pacifiers before at least a 4 week mark, for 4 weeks postpartum, there's a possibility that they will be confused and they will have a hard time latching onto the breast as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said for the mom to reach out and seek professional help from a lactation consultant.
Hmm.
Would you give us like some other programs is other than WIC? Like where else would moms reach into for help if they needed help?
Okay. So within the hospital, those are like the main ones, and then you have different organizations. I mean, I know some moms um, they uh, they are involved in groups online. You have we and I didn't introduce my organization yet at all, but we have an organization. When I say we, me and my daughter started an organization called the Black Breastfeeding Coalition of Ohio, and we definitely help mothers. No Mother Goes Help when they contact us, and you call in, and we talk to you, and sometimes you might refer out depending on what's going on, but we're another source. I'm trying to think. I want to say it's going to be mainly the hospitals and WIC, and then us, and then depending on where the mother's at, there's organizations in different cities. Like down in Cincinnati, they have what they call Boops, and that's an organization down there. And there's many other ones that that you can reach out to. Um, I'm trying to think.
So
Just across Ohio.
so they would basically just kind of if someone was looking, they would just type in or Google lactation consultant or lactation help if they were looking outside of WIC to get some type of
Outside of
assistance.
WIC, yes, outside of WIC, or outside of the hospital. And then also, I want to mention Children's Hospital. They have a free clinic now. Most insurance, I don't think there's any insurance that don't pay for lactation help, but there's lactation help through the insurance companies. That they'll provide the means to for you to be able to do that. But in particular, that's usually where mothers go, and also I mentioned before, La Leche League is another one. And that's an international organization, but we have like local chapters in our area, and they also would help mothers with breastfeeding as well. And then, of course, you have
What's the
your
name of the
private,
program again?
it's called La Leche League,
Okay.
La Leche. And then you also have private practice, international board certified lactation consultants as well. And those are ones that are
Okay.
not affiliated with anyone, but they just do like home visits, or they might even do like virtual visits. So you do have that. um, they're all coming to me now, like Lactation Network. That's another place that, or another, I won't say a place, but it's like a virtual option. You type in Lactation Network, and that's another source where you can get lactation help as well.
Okay. So let me ask you this. We talked about breastfeeding not being normalized when we were younger, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing now, like in our community, as with young moms or moms in general? What are you seeing now in the Black community? Is it becoming more normal? Is it still have that stigma to it? Like, what are you seeing in the community?
I see both, but I will say from the time I started breastfeeding and to now, I see that it's being more normalized, but I still see the stigma. And what I see mostly is you have a lot of mothers that will try breastfeeding in our community, but because it's like, because that stigma is still there, they don't always have the support to continue. In most cases, mothers need support in some kind of way. Whether it's just like, okay, you're doing well, but just, just someone saying like, oh my gosh, you're doing such a great job. Just having people just to, around you, just to cheerlead you on. That's important. Along with, if you need like some actual breastfeeding help, like have some latching issues, or questions about pumping or returning to work, or just so many different things that could be covered. But I think the stigma is still there, and it's mainly because of just the lack of education and just the lack of us seeing each other do it. Like you just um, and then also I would say you have some mothers that are just they may when they just want to breastfeed in private. They don't want to hear anything shameful, and they just prefer to breastfeed in private and no one knows about it. And we need to be okay with nursing in public. If you want to cover up, but we need to normalize, and that's how we're going to normalize it by um, talking about breastfeeding. Um, Not being ashamed to breastfeed. I just remember when I had my oldest child, and I was in a grocery store, and I was thinking, oh, look at her thinking, you're crying because I'm not feeding you, and I'm not. Why am I not feeding you? Because I'm scared what people are going to say about me. You need to eat. Forget this. I'm going to feed you. And I just remember I sat down and I fed her, and just remember being that young mom, just being so scared and timid, and I didn't have a whole lot of support besides the WIC. I didn't have any support outside of WIC. So when I was outside of WIC, I didn't feel supported. Um, but I remember just sitting down and nursing her, and this lady walked past and she says, "That's what those babies were made for." And I'm like, wow, so that just hearing her say that made you want to breastfeed in public another time. So it just so again, I guess empowered in my own sense, like I'm just gonna do this, but it really meant a lot for her to say that to me. So just even seeing mothers breastfeed instead of being something negative, something positive. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're doing that. It just means the world for a mother to hear that.
How's the younger generation? Do you feel like the younger generation is being more and more welcoming to breastfeeding?
I think so. Again, I think the support is still very important. I do see younger moms, they will start out breastfeeding. Do I feel like there's still like quite a disparity? There is quite a disparity, but I have seen more and more young mothers choosing to breastfeed. It's just that what I've also seen though is like grandmother of the young mother maybe feeling a little intimidated by the whole thing, like especially she has to wash a baby and she has to make the bottles, or if the baby just seems too attached to mom, and it's like, okay, I need to feel like I'm gonna know what to do, and I'm not gonna feel like helpless because you're breastfeeding this baby and I didn't do it, so it's okay if the baby has bottles and has formula, because I that's what I did, and he or she'll be fine. And so I do see a lot of that with the young mothers, where they're still like looking at their mother for support, and it's kind of hard when the mother didn't do it, so they might not have that proper support. So it's
Okay,
just
so let's jump into how does an individual support mothers to breastfeed if they haven't breastfed themselves or
mm-hmm,
don't have children? So,
mm-hmm,
meaning an individual can believe that children should be breastfed, and want to support and want to push the initiative, right?
mm-hmm.
But how does that person do that if, because two things, if they did not breastfeed or they don't have children, and of course they didn't breastfeed. So how
Yeah.
does that person get involved and be a support and a cheerleader?
I would say the most important thing is have an open mind. you know and when you haven't breastfed, when I say open-mindedness, try not to look at what you didn't do or how things, and sometimes people try and it didn't work out. You have to have an open mind, thinking, you know what, just because that was my experience doesn't mean it has to be the next person's experience. And then the other thing is, having an open mind as a person that didn't breastfeed, be willing to learn as much as you can. And so when I say learn as much as you can, you might not be able to learn enough to like be able to help a mother hands on, but just knowing the resource that you can refer the mothers to, that being able to support that mother. I mean, I've had people in my life that didn't breastfeed that, but they were still very supportive. They and it's like, okay, you know what, I can't help you with this, but I want to help you. Let me find someone that can help you. Just, I mean, sometimes it can be even making a phone call for a mother. I mean, the mother might be so, like, swamped and just like exhausted. She might need you to make that phone call and listening to mothers, um, empathizing. And if it's something that you just don't know about, just try not to speak on it. You know, because
That's a good one.
I've heard of people speaking on different things, and it makes common sense. But if you haven't breastfed, it doesn't always make common. It doesn't always fit. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's common sense, but that's not accurate information. So you don't want to you don't ever want to support the mother in a way to where you're thinking, like, okay, this makes common sense, and once you try this, you want to make sure that she has accurate information and help her to get it, point her in the right direction. Um, Let me see another way of supporting. What was I going to mention? Something else about that. Um, Again, this being encouraging, being a cheerleader, asking her, like, what can I do for you? That's another thing too. Not, you don't want the mother to breastfeed more than you want her to. What can I do
Mm-hmm.
for you? How can I help you? And meet the mother where she's at. And you don't want
Well,
to.
you know what? How about, okay, because we're talking about women being supportive, right? What should men be doing to be supportive?
Well, that goes for men as well, but um but as far as like fathers and men, again, the same thing, getting as much education as you can. If you're saying to yourself breastfeeding is disgusting, you need to go back to the drawing board. If you say, looking at someone breastfeeding in public, if that's disgusting to you or it gives you like the willies or something like that, it's time to go back to the drawing board. Because it's a normal thing, and this is the thing. At some point, that's all we did was breastfeed. That's all we did. There was no formula. So are we saying it's nasty because now they have formula, and breastfeeding is not fully normalized? So now is that why it's disgusting because we got formula now? Because what about when we all just were breastfed? Would it have been nasty then? So especially with fathers, just making sure that that they, again, the support, going to the classes with them,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging them to go to the classes, going to the classes with them, taking your notebook and taking notes too, because they don't always remember everything. I remember my mom, when she went with me, she was like, remember what that lady said? Let the baby open up wide. And, that helped me, just that one little tidbit of information that she gave me. And so, fathers, just knowing, just being educated, knowing what to expect, knowing how they can support mothers. And I have seen mothers be so successful with breastfeeding, having a supportive dad. Oh man, even if they're just like, okay, you know what? I don't know how to help you. I'm just gonna listen to you, and we're just gonna figure this out together. Um, Honey, you're doing such a great job, giving them, or I mean, they might not be the type to say honey, but you're doing such a great job and making sure they have what they need, because sometimes when you're nursing, you feel like you need something to drink and you may have forgot to grab a bottle of water, or you're hungry, and it's like just making sure they have what they need, because man, you can feel like dry. If you're not taking care of yourself. And a lot of times mothers get so wrapped up in taking care of the baby that they kind of forget about taking care of themselves. And so that's a really big way to support mothers. I mean, bringing meals and things like that, setting it up to where mom can get rest, um, in between breastfeeding, just things like that.
Okay. So making sure everybody are taking notes. And if you have any questions for Melissa, please drop them in the comments. If you're on Instagram, please drop your questions over on YouTube. And we'll make sure that we get Melissa to answer your questions. So, Melissa, we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. And I have one more question to you because we're talking about breastfeeding. But I also want to be kind of sidetrack and be realistic about situations that are going on with people taking care of other people's children, right? Younger kids, whether it be auntie, grandparent, whatever the role may be, taking on the responsibility of younger children, and so they don't have that ability to be able to give the child the most powerful milk that we were talking about, right? What
Mhm.
are, and maybe this needs to be another episode as it relates to podcasting, but what are some alternatives for people who may be taking care of children and breastfeeding isn't an option? Do you have recommendations for good milk?
I know that when I worked at Wake, they, if the mother couldn't breastfeed, the next recommendation was formula, and it's cow's milk formula, and then you just kind of start from there. As far as like what to recommend, as far as like whether it be goat milk or something else, I just really can't recommend it. I just can't. I just can't recommend anything. Just I don't know what the baby may or may not need. Some babies need like a specific formula. You just the most I think that when it comes to recommending an alternate and making sure that you're doing things that's gonna fully benefit the baby's health is to speak to a nutritionist. So speaking with a nutritionist, I know they have them at WIC, they have them at the hospital, just to make sure that you are making the best decision as far as like an alternative route. Now, most people are okay with doing formula and things of that nature, and some people aren't. They're mothers to alternative options, and then depending on the situation, a lot of times the mothers in a hospital, depending on what's going on, we have mothers milk banks. I don't know if you know about that. We have mothers milk banks, and they'll donate milk to the mother for their babies.
So that's
Um,
what the milk bank is, mothers donating their milk
Yes, the
for
mothers
babies.
actually, the mothers actually pump their milk, and it goes through a pasteurization process. They make sure they do a very lengthy questionnaire about their health and everything. But this milk is actually provided to babies in specific situations, especially like when it comes to like health things. Um, and then you got it's
How
options
does a
out
person
there.
find that information out? Do they just look up milk bank?
Well, usually at the hospital, they can ask if they're in the hospital, they can ask about that. It's usually when the babies are in a hospital setting. So I don't know if any hospital doesn't know about that, but they definitely could find out about Mother's Milk Bank, and the hospitals where mothers deliver their babies, they all should know about the Mother's Milk Bank. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was good information because that's definitely something I had no clue about. That was
Mm-hmm.
good information. Is there anything that I haven't asked you or anything that you want to share with the audience?
Let me see. Anything that you haven't asked? I don't think there's anything that you haven't asked, that I would add, but I will say this. We Black Breastfeeding Coalition of Ohio is having an event in August. They have Black Breastfeeding Week, and that's from the 24th through the 31st. And it's just to bring awareness to breastfeeding in our community. And we spend that week educating mothers, and just really, well, we support mothers all the time, but really making them really honor mothers and babies during that week. And we are going to have a celebration. We'll have things on our website here in the next week or two. Some kind of flyer information is free to the public. It's going to be on Eventbrite. We plan to do some maternity photos with mothers and babies. A lot of times, mothers and babies don't have pictures. And so we have a photographer that's going to take some pictures, a professional photographer. And we have some other fun things lined up. And we really want mothers to come out, we want mothers in our community to to really know that they're special and that they're supported, and just encourage them, and just meeting other mothers like you, and making connections and things like that. We find that's very, very important. Also, we do have a breastfeeding support group, and we have lactation professionals. There's four of us, and we're all breastfeed. We've all either breastfed or are breastfeeding our kids. We look like you. We value, we love, we absolutely love being role models successful breastfeeding role models. And so that group is every third Tuesday, and that is actually on our website. And our website, the short version of our website is bbcoh.org, and you can actually
Mm-hmm.
go and register for that particular event every third Tuesday, and we'll have that coming up here. I'm sorry, every fourth Tuesday. Correction, every fourth Tuesday. And so we'll have that coming up, so where you're welcome to hop on there, pregnant or breastfeeding. Any
Okay.
questions, Max?
Really quick. So the event from the 24th to through the 31st, that's only in
Oh,
Montgomery?
it's only in Montgomery.
Okay.
It's in Montgomery County, and that is going to be on the 25th from 3 to 6 p.m. And so we'll have more information. We're actually in the process of getting our flyer finalized. And so that's going to be 3 to 6 on the 25th. It's on a Sunday. Um,
Okay.
Public Health, Dayton and Montgomery County, is also having an event, and it's going to be on that Saturday before ours. And so that's something else that, if mothers are interested, that should be on Public Health's website, the information about that. And so,
Okay, so when you say the 24th through the 31st, it's a lot going on as it relates to breastfeeding week, and different organizations is having something.
yes, and this is like across the
Okay.
country, so different people do
Okay.
different things. Like, for instance, last year we did a breastfeeding proclamation where we had Mayor Mims to sign a proclamation for Black Breastfeeding Week. Just really talking about how important it is, and just really highlight some things and how our communities can support Black mothers. So we did that last year along with an event, and people just do different things to really bring awareness to breastfeeding in our community.
Okay. So once you kind of get the resources together, then all the information for your event, can you share it with me so I make sure that it's posted? But you said yours will
Yes,
be on the 25th from 3 to 6. Do you
three to
already have
six.
the location?
We do, but we're finalizing that. I want to make sure that that's fully finalized before we say anything. And then also, there's a maternity show that there's someone by the name of Denise. She's actually an experienced breastfeeding mother. She's a doula as well, and she's a photographer. She's wonderful. As a matter of fact, she'll be the one taking our pictures. And she's going to have a maternity show where mother's going to walk down the runway and, just, showcasing everything. And she very much encourages breastfeeding pregnant mothers to come out to this event. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be there as a vendor. If you come, you'll see me. You'll at least know one person that you'll at least see one person that you know or that you've seen. um, and that's on August the 16th. And so
Okay.
I'll make sure I share that information as well. But that's going to be on August the 17th. My dates, because breastfeeding is also or August is also breastfeeding awareness month. So the whole month of August, people are doing things, and then you have that one week at the end there that we really gear towards Black breastfeeding. But the whole month of August is considered breastfeeding awareness month. So it's going to be a lot
Okay.
of things going on in August.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That was definitely good information. And please make sure all of Melissa's contact information is in the description, email, social media handles. So make sure you're following her pages. Melissa has a wealth of knowledge, as you see. She's been in the game for over 18 years, and she has firsthand experience because she breastfed her children, all six, and she's now still breastfeeding her youngest child. So we are on a mission to make sure we normalize breastfeeding in the Black community and our community, having more talks, having more education, being supportive to mothers. And so we just want to make sure that we are opening platforms to be able to talk about breastfeeding and normalizing it, especially in our community, because somewhere along the journey, we have put a stigma on there that breastfeeding isn't normal and is one of the best things that God has given us the ability to do, given women the ability to do. So I just want to make sure that I said that. And Melissa will be coming back. This is not the last that you have seen of Melissa, okay? Because she has a lot of knowledge. So, Melissa, we are getting ready to wrap up, and I have 2 bonus questions for you. Are you ready?
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, and they're called rapid growth fire questions, okay?
Okay.
Share with us one of your favorite affirmations.
Favorite affirmations. I think one of my favorite ones is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you say that like often? Do you have it written somewhere?
I think of it often. I think of it, like it's like I meditate on it. I can't say I
Okay.
like say it out loud a whole lot, but yeah, I definitely meditate on that a lot. I
Okay.
do.
So, second question is name one of your favorite books or self-help tip that has helped you as a woman.
Books or self help. Oh my goodness, that's a tricky question. Uh, self help tips has helped me as a woman. This is the one that I think of that someone told me when I was a teenager. Someone told me when I complained about someone not getting something done they're supposed to get done for me. They said to me, the best way to get something done is to do it yourself. And it kind of checked me. I was like, you know what, you're right. I could have did that myself. And so, especially being a single mother, and people say, "How do you do that with all those kids? How do you do?" And that's always my little thing. I just get stuff done. I get stuff done. Whether I have support or not, or just I mean, whatever it is, I try to get it done. And I try not to. And the fact that I look at it that way, there's no time for me to be self pitying. I
Nope.
just, although sometimes I have gotten into my little self pitying modes, but then it's kind of like, nope, get up, um, it's not a lot of time for that, and I bounce back when I think about that. You can get this done. I know you don't feel like getting this done, but you can get this done. And I try to do whatever I can possibly do on my own, of course, but with the strength of God in me, that I don't have to rely on other people. Not that I don't like to rely on other people. I mean, I will when I have to, but if I can possibly do it myself, I would do it myself. And then I don't know if that's a self-care tip or not, but I got to work. I mean, even as although I'm a professional and you help people and you always you pour into other people, I feel like I could definitely do a lot better at self-care for myself. Yeah, so that it's like after this, I'll be thinking about that. About okay, well, how can I get better with doing self care? Because that's something that, especially we as mothers, and and if you love to help others, a lot of times you put that on the back burner. You just forget to provide self care to yourself, and it is really important because if you don't, you get burned out. You know.
Absolutely. And listen, we gonna talk. We're gonna talk about self-care. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have you call me so I can help you get that part together. Okay.
Yes, and
So I
I'm sorry, I do want to say one more thing before we
uh
go, just real quick. I there's you should never, as a mother, you should never feel like you don't have anybody to support you in your breastfeeding journey, or even your decision to breastfeed as a pregnant mother. So if you're in a situation where you don't have anybody to support you, you can't think of a person that breastfed or anything like that. Please reach out to us, like so we can make sure that you have someone that supports you and has your back in your journey to breastfeed.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I second that. I second that. Well, thank you so much for coming on to Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia. Thank you for saying yes. And we are going
You're
to talk
welcome.
about that whole self-care thing. Okay, we're going to talk about that offline because I'm going to help you get that together. But again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you stay connected with me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia. Remember to choose to grow daily, show up as the best version of yourself each day, and operate in faith over fear. I am your girl, Tamekia, and we'll catch you all next week. Thank you for joining in. Talk to you later.
Bye.